Hey everyone, this is Max and welcome to another no-code video. Now today I'm going to show you how to build a form, and then when the form is submitted, you get notified immediately that there is a new form submission. So you're looking at the flow that I built in Parabola, which I'm going to explain in just a few seconds. But I actually built a very similar application that you can see here that sends an email and a text message when a new user registers. Now this is the flow, and I also use Parabola, and then I created the form in Airtable. Now the difference is in this example, so Parabola gets data from Airtable. It can get it as frequently as every 10 minutes, right? So that works, but of course people can be submitting forms also between those 2 minutes. So I was looking for a solution where I can get notified immediately. And so in this solution and in this video, I use Typeform because I can connect Typeform and Parabola via a webhook. And then when the form is submitted, it will invoke the Parabola flow right away. All right, so let's go back to Parabola. So this is the flow again. But before I explain every step here, let's go to Typeform. Now this is my form. It's very basic. As you can see, there is the name and then there is the email. Okay. Now if I go to connect and then I go to webhook, see right here I have a connection to Parabola. So what happens is, again, when the form is submitted, Typeform will make a call to this endpoint, which will in turn invoke this flow, right? And then it will send an email. All right, so let's look at every step now a little bit closer. So the first is the webhook, right? So this is the input. So as I said, a form is submitted, Typeform makes a call to this endpoint, which in turn invokes this Parabola flow. Now, because this is a webhook, it needs some test data as a JSON, so it just knows, it understands the structure, the input. So I have the sample data here, and then this is sort of the input, right? So there's the event ID, event type, but then form response is where all this data. So in the next step, I'm actually going to expand it. All right, let's see how that looks. So let's open this step. This is the result, but let's quickly look at the input. So again, this is the input that's being passed to me from the previous step. And then what I'm doing is I am expanding JSON. I'm saying expand this column or this field, form response. And then what I get is I get two rows because I have two fields, name and email. And let's see. So we got the first, this is the name. And again, this is coming from the sample JSON data. And then we have email. All right. All right. So to the next step. Next step is I am, just to keep it a little bit cleaner, is that I'm removing some of the columns from the response. I'm just keeping three columns: the event ID, the name response, and then the email response. So again, if we can look at the input here, this is how it looks. Right, this is the input. All right. So next step, I need to merge. So basically, I had two rows before. This is the input, and I would like it to be just one row. Because so the way Parabola works is that it kind of operates on each row, right? So because it's a single response, I need to put it into the same row. So I'm merging. So I'm saying merge all the values from the following columns. So this is what I get. This is my new row, right? The next one, I'm just renaming columns. So just to make it a little bit more elegant. So I've got the answer name and the answer email. And the next step is adding a column with the email, where to send the message. So you can see right here, this is the email, and you see new column and then the default value. And then the last step is I am actually sending the email. So I've got the subject and I've got the body, right? Now this send email by row is a built-in component in Parabola, but you can also use, for example, SendGrid to send emails as well. Now, I use Parabola in other videos, but just to give you a quick overview, Parabola is a no-code platform that allows you to build this application in this visual way. You can see every step does something very, very specific. So we take data and then we sort of manipulate data, right? And then we send the email. And of course, data from one step then flows into the next. But what I really like is that you don't have to write any code, right? You can do this in a visual way. All right, so let's publish this. And so right here, this is the webhook, right? So this is the connection to Typeform. So this URL is also set on the Typeform site. All right. Now I mentioned this at the beginning, but if I wanted to run this periodically, then I could set it here. As you can see, I can run it as frequently as every 10 minutes. Okay. Now in this case, we don't need to set the frequency or we need to do any scheduled runs because again, once the form is submitted, it will run via the webhook. So let's go here and let's go to share and get the form link. All right, so this is our form, and let's type Mary is for the name, and then Mary at Gmail is fine, and click submit. All right, so we're submitting the form. Typeform called the webhook, which in turn called the Parabola, invoked the Parabola flow with the data that it just submitted. And it looks like I got an email, and and you can see this is the data that I just submitted and received. All right, so that's it. Let me open this again. Yeah, so this is the flow. Again, I hope this was useful. If you have any questions, please reach out. If there are any other example or cases that you would like me to try, reach out. It's always really interesting to build these solutions. I also really like to take a solution that built with code and then rebuild it using no-code tools. And that's actually what I did here, is that I took an application built with code and then rebuilt it using no-code tools. Also, just in general, this is sort of an example where a form is submitted and then you send a notification or a text message. That's a very common example you see if you see, for example, a serverless type example, right? It's a very common scenario. And this just shows that you can rebuild the same with using no-code tools. And of course, the type form can be embedded, right, on a website, for example. So, but again, hope this was useful, and thank you for watching.